Hello, um, good evening. It is February the 17th, 2025, on a Monday. And we welcome all of you to this session. And now I would like to ask you if you have any questions or if you have any comments about yesterday or any point that we were in session or anything that comes to your mind that you would like to um, discuss or have answers to.
If you could explain this to me, uh, it was about the college and the K-12 schools ordered by Trump's administration to abolish DEI face funding cuts. What exactly is that saying?
It's simply saying that any program within the school district that was had training on DEI, their funds would be cut if they did not abolish the program. That's what he's saying.
Okay.
This is what I want all of us to understand. Trump is not trying to get rid of people. I'm sorry, not trying to close anything. He's getting rid of people because he wants to replace them with his own people. When he getting rid of people, you don't hear him saying anything about not hiring anyone else. So that's what this is about. However, we're on the sidelines, so let's stay there. We watching this workout, and we used to say back in the day, tell white folk business, let them work it out, because they voted for him, thinking that the brunt of what pain was going to be endured by black and brown people, and brown people thought the same thing about black people. So now they are struggling, trying to keep their heads above water, and they're struggling because they don't know what's coming next. And that, honestly, that has never been the what's coming next question with us, because we have always known how the system works, and it has always made sure that we struggle. So now that is being dismantled, so so we can experience balance and harmony. Let's just watch it play out. And I hope the response to your question helped you, Kathy, and the commentary on the rest of it. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions or comments about that?
Just a quick comment. This is Audrey. It just occurred to me earlier today that kind of chaos and fear they're creating right now. It's the same thing they did after Reconstruction and all the way up into the Civil Rights Movement. They created chaos and fear to sort of keep us off balance. But it's exactly the same thing that's happening right now. And I just think we should be aware of that, so that we can sort of not exactly rationalize, but so that we can sort of know what's happening.
Right. I thank you for that. As long as we keep that in mind, I think it will help us avoid the fear tactic that they're trying to introduce.
Exactly. And that helped me, realizing that helped me a lot to know it's not about me, it's just about them trying to create fear, and I don't have to be afraid.
Right. And keep in mind also, fear is not going to change what they're doing. Perseverance on this journey that we are on is what changes everything. instead of introducing the KKK in robes and light riders after Reconstruction, they wear suits now, and they are billionaires, and they are tech manipulators. So as long as we understand what's before us, we'll be fine. We've always been fine. It's impossible to eliminate us. Thank you.
And our ancestors went through exactly this. So if we have their guidance, then we'll be fine.
Yes, and I want to speak to that again some more today, rather, in terms of our ancestors. That's a powerful thing, and the reason we do libation. Anyone else? Someone had it's just static on me. No,
I don't think so.
712. Everyone, make sure your phones are muted.
I don't know. I hear it.
Okay.
I
Thank
I just feel like yesterday we hit a gold nugget when we start gaining understanding of libations, and I don't have a question for it. It just I went back and looked, did some research, and look, the scriptures is full of examples of it. When it talks about a drink offering, I think it's in 1 Samuel chapter 7 where it talks about they had sinned against God, and the first thing they did was pour a libation to God, pour out water to God. So you know, we're seeing things now that we hadn't seen before, and that's amazing to me because it was there, but it wasn't awakened. And as we awaken, we're seeing these things. So yeah, I'm interested to know more about libations because I think there's so much more there that to uncover. Just not
Okay.
sure what question to ask, huh?
Well, that's okay. We'll start talking about it, and then if there are questions that come to you or anyone else for that matter, please raise them. But before we enter that discussion, though, I want to see if there are questions about anything else.
Pastor, this is Linda.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to, when we talk about fear,
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's the black man is standing on what they believe, what they say that they're going to do. That the white man is going to have to pull himself up out of the trenches. And it's like now they are showing fear. It's like, well, what is Kamala doing? Why is she not out here helping us? And the black women are saying, no, darling. When you went in that booth and closed that curtain and you voted, this is what you get. And so now, to me, it's more they have fear now.
Yeah, I like your impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
You're absolutely right, Linda. Right now, what's being talked about is the division and the infighting between black men and black women, where there is none. There is none. We were on the same page when it came to voting for Kamala Harris, and we're still on the same page when it comes to saying, you know what, you dug this hole, now you got to climb out of it. As one lady said on a video that I subscribe to, she talked about how now that you are out here on your own, and when we refuse to come, be manipulated by you because you called us out, what you do is start calling us names, and that's exactly what happened on some videos of white people asking us, "Where's the black man? Where's the black woman?" We are still here. So as she said, you get out there in the streets, you'll be okay. You white, you brown, get in the streets and get your little pussy hats out of the closet. Those are hats that they wore the first time Trump was elected and good in the streets like you were before. It's totally different now. Because what is not being said is the top tier of governmental departments were filled with white people. And they are the ones who are feeling the brunt. And as we talked about yesterday, that filters down to the grocery store, the service station, the car dealership, um, uh, dinners, all kinds of things, clothes for your kids. All of that filters down when that money is taken out of circulation because of termination. The other thing about that is this is nothing new to us. As Audrey mentioned at the onset, we've been down this road before. And there was a time, as she spoke about the civil rights movement, when we did get in the streets. And they showed us something. And what they showed us is we are going to pretend to give you civil rights, voting rights, etc. And at some point, we're going to take it back because all of them have sunset clauses. And here we are. We're at the place where they're taking it back. And again, as Audrey said, we were right back in the place where we were during Reconstruction. The only difference this time is that the suffering is heavier on the manipulators than it is on us. And when I say the manipulators, I'm talking about Hispanic folk also. I feel the same about them as I do the white people who are suffering from what's happening. They went in the booth, they thought they were white, they don't like us. Now they see what it's like, and they want us to join them, the brown people. That's a hard no. That's not going to happen. There are 50,000 Cuban refugees in South Florida that had visited Cuba. And in their refugee status, they said that if they were to go back to Cuba, they would be arrested or killed. And there are 50,000 who have returned to Cuba to visit. And now Trump is saying that you visited and that negates your refugee status, so you're going to be deported. I like that. And this pushes us further to a place where everything is being deconstructed so it can be reconstructed, as well as what's happening in Europe, deconstruction, so it can be reconstructed. An ex-ambassador from America said that in reference to Trump talking about Ukraine and the minerals that are in Ukraine, he said that it's okay to get the minerals from Ukraine if as long as we don't put them in a state of colonization to get them. Well, he didn't worry about putting Africa in a state of colonization to get the resources from there. Neither are they concerned about the colonization that's in Haiti for them to get the minerals from there. So I'm on the sideline, yet I am involved deeply in it. In my sideline position or posture, I am interceding for this chaos to be brought to order sooner than later, so that balance can be experienced by humanity, and that none of us will have to live like we do as Africans, waiting for the other shoe to drop and having to say we've been here before. I don't want any of us to come back to this place before, and I want the suffering to be strong enough for brown people and white people to see that they are not exempt from the suffering when it comes to white men. Thank you. Anyone else?
Marsha,
I guess, I,
I'll let,
I'm sorry, go ahead,
I
Evan.
yield.
Go ahead. I apologize.
I was gonna say, Pastor, no, you're fine, brother. Everything is being shaken.
Yep,
Everything is being shaken.
absolutely.
And I'm glad we are able to be mindful of that. And you know, because like Audrey was saying, there's fear, but I'm glad we have the platform so we can be reminded of that. Everything is being shaken for the good of mankind. That's all I want to say. Thank you, Ron.
Yes, ma'am. I agree with you. Everything is being shaken. One of the things I thought of when you were talking and what Audrey said was uh, the beauty of this is everything does go back to beginning. We're saying we don't want to go back, and I do understand what you're saying, but we're showing what strength we have, and the ancestors have gone through this, and that is the strength that they have gone through this. So we go back to the beginning, not as it was then, but we come back now with all the spiritual strength in the universe. So that's the libation portion to me. That's part of the understanding and the linkage of the libations and the strength, the history, and the suffering, and the uh, spiritual understanding of the ancestors. So yeah, we all of this has happened before, and that's I think is a part of it that showed us that we're on the right track. If that
Thank
makes sense.
It does. It does indeed make sense. I actually I'm going to talk about and show you examples of the power of libations. Are there any other comments or questions?
I have a comment, Rep. It was based on what Evelyn was saying,
Mm-hmm.
and the word do say if everything will be shaken. And he said to start a household of faith. It checked us in the beginning when she didn't get it, and we didn't know which way to look at things and turn, but God has brought us back to let us know that we is owned by him. So now the people that did what they did and didn't know what they were doing, now they've been shaken.
Thank you, Charles. And when we reference God, rather we do it the way it is in the sacred writings, and that is it rather than a he, and because Elohim is androgynous, spirit is androgynous, and also out of the womb came everything that is, which means that the cosmic mother is the womb of everything that is. Those kinds of things I appreciate us being reminded of and use as often as possible. And I, as well as the rest of us, are going to speak differently than what I just said. But I want all of us to know that even though we are speaking it out of habit, we know what we're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I think that we are in a very peculiar place at this moment. And what I'm saying is, we're at a place where we must be mindful of so many things that we have discussed during these sessions. When you really think about it, we were taught that we are to ask the Father to bless our food when we are about to eat. When in essence, the blessing of food is all about making sure that it is not bitter that it is sweet. And when the scriptures talk about bitter, it's talking about harmful to the body. And when it talks about sweet, it's talking about something that is healthy or something that enhances the body. I'm a firm believer that we are able to transpose whatever we put in our bodies by virtue of who we are and by virtue of our trusting who we are and knowing that there is no power greater than us, regardless of whether it is a preservative in the food or not. Those things are outside of our control in terms of physicality, but they are not outside of our control spiritually. Does that make sense? So we have to begin to trust that. Yesterday we talked at length about libations and ancestry. The only people I know on earth who are adamant about staying in contact with or being linked to ancestors are Africans. And I indeed appreciate that understanding, which means that our ancestry beliefs are very important to the journey of humanity. If we don't embrace the reality of ancestry, then the whole world is in trouble. And that is one of the reasons I believe that we are at this space now where we are looking at ancestry and what it involves stronger than we have in the past, or more in depth than we have in the past. Before I talk about the power of the libations, I want to ask if there are any individual questions or collective questions in regards to ancestors and libations or whatever it is as it pertains to this.
There was one thing that I read. I read that through libations, you can invite the ancestors to participate with you in whatever functions that you are doing it for spirituality, like now, for instance, or through your prayers and meditations and stuff. I thought that was interesting. I had just hadn't thought about it to that degree, but talk about that part of it too as well.
The power and importance of it.
Yeah.
The power and the importance of libations for the ancestors when we pour out and when we venerate the ancestors or when we show respect for their presence. That gives us opportunity not only to be guided in what we are doing, but also for changes to take place that have been a problem generationally. When we are pouring out libations to ancestors, keep in mind that there are ancestors who introduced alcoholism to families, to our communities, abandonment, drug addictions, violence, abuse. Some of our ancestors introduced that. And some of us, we've talked about how we've gone through it, have we not? So now that the ancestors are in a place where they are able to see what they broke, they have the power to fix it now. And they have a desire to fix it because they see what should have been as opposed to what was when they were housed in the body, in a body, Are you understanding what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes, but I have a question about that, Pastor Jay.
Mm-hmm.
So are they doing this through us? Are they helping us to help them?
No. They really don't need our help because they're in a place of,
Okay,
they are helping us to navigate this place called Earth while we are housed in these bodies. When I talk about the brokenness, the things that they broke, there are the many things that we talked about when we were talked about how the abuse that our African women had gone through and the abuse of men as well. We've talked about those things, and the ones who were the abusers, now that they are able to see with the clarity, not a greater clarity, but with the clarity period, they are able to fix it also. It's like because someone did that to us, it doesn't mean that we write them off. It is no different than forgiveness. There are no exceptions to forgiveness, none. So it doesn't matter whether it was molestation, rape, um, violence, disrespect, all of that comes under the heading of forgiveness. And that is our way while we are in these bodies. Forgiveness is a way for us to fix what was broken in us and was broken in those who were the perpetrators of our pain. Does that make sense? Talk to me.
yes, it does.
So
So by us,
go ahead, Evelyn.
well, I was going to ask, by us invoking them, inviting them into our presence and giving honor to them, just by us listening and just being, we get answers, we get directions on life.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind that when you invoke the presence of ancestors, you can't weed nobody out. You can't say that I want all the ancestors except blah, blah, blah to be here. Bubba can't come, but I want the rest of y'all. You can't do that. Bubba coming. And Bubba saying, I know I was wrong. Give me a chance to fix it. But if in your mind, in your heart, you're trying to weed Bubba out, then you have not forgiven Bubba. Does that make sense? So,
Yes, yeah, we can't pick and choose.
no. So when we talk about pouring out libations for the in respect of our ancestors, because we are venerating them in this manner, they are obligated to interact with us. Why? Because keep in mind also that the pouring out of love, a libation for the veneration of our ancestors was so from the beginning. It has always been so. And the reason we've struggled so hard is because our ancestors have been trying to guide us, but we've been resistant because we're so educated, we're so modern, we're so Christian, we're so smart. When in essence, in reality, we're dumb. We're ignorant of the power of our ancestors, especially when it comes to libations. When you pour out libations at a wedding, and let me give you an example. If we're pouring out libations at one of the weddings in my household, and let's say it's one of my girls' wedding, and when we're pouring out libations, somebody say Better Rose and somebody say Ashe. What you're saying is you're welcoming the presence, and so let allow the energy. We agree that this energy is necessary for our guidance during the process of this wedding, but even beyond this, we are we are pouring out libations so that the ancestors um, will be very present in the lives of those who are being joined in matrimony. Does that make sense? It ain't no
Yes.
different. This whole thing about being baptized and asking, and now that you've been baptized, Jesus will walk with you the rest of your life. That's not who we are. Who we are Africans. And being Africans, we must adhere to African culture because there is no culture older than African culture. And when we talk about culture of African, we are not just talking about drums and clothes and dances. We're not talking about entertaining people. We are talking about the power of spirituality. We are culturally spiritual, whether we embrace it or not. And being culturally spiritual, when we embrace the reality of what spirituality means to us and how it was introduced to us from the beginning, we don't have a choice other than to embrace the reality and the power of pouring out libations for the veneration of our ancestors. Does that make sense? Any questions about this or comments, please? Go ahead, Ron.
No, I was just thinking when you brought up your mom's name. I remember telling you a while back about a dream I had, and my dad was taking me through this place and leading me through these rooms, and he was the only one in each place that he took me. He was the only one that I knew, but I knew that I was related to everybody there in all those rooms, all those places, and I really didn't get it. It just made me, the thought I had is they were waiting for me to do something, and I never did figure that out. But the point I'm making is, I guess what that showed me is our families are just doorways to let us in, uh, that we see through our meditations, because that our ancestors are infinite, right? From beginning of time. Uh, and think of all of that strength, all of that power, all of that spirituality. So the faces that we see will be what we're familiar with, but it's a lot more to it than that. I guess all I'm saying.
Well, I think the dream, I didn't see it at the time, Ron.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But as I see it now, your daddy was bringing you through what you saw as being a house with all those people, right?
Hmm.
And was showing you that you don't have to know them in order for them to be in your presence to guide you.
Hmm. Okay.
Your dream was for such a time as this. That's what I believe.
Okay.
As you said, your daddy was a doorway to show you that the ancestors are always ready to respond to you, to walk with you every single day of your life, every single second of your life. The difference is at that time, I also did not recognize it for what it is. We recognize it as a dream, as opposed to recognizing it as a message.
Yeah.
That's the power that's in this. And now I say to you, when you choose to pour out libations, honor your dad for guiding you through that door
Mhm.
and include in that all of the ancestors who are in your presence, not just the biological people who are in your life, but ancestors, period, because truly we are spiritually one. Does that make sense?
Does. Yeah.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, this, what you're saying just reminds me of a dream I had. And I remember telling you about it a long time ago. And I think it was after my dad passed away. And I remember in the dream, they were both there, my mom and my dad, but they were Africans. In the dream, they were Africans. They were dressed as African, and I did not recognize them as, in terms of physically, I did not recognize them as my mom and dad, but in the dream, I knew that they were my mom and dad. But I remember that they were Africans. And what Ron is saying about getting back to the beginning, I think that is what that message was for me, even though I had no clue at the time, and not even until now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find that very interesting to rethink all that.
And all of that, if it were not for such a time as this, why are you remembering it now? Because now is when it's the time that it was given to you to express to everyone, so that it helps all of us to embrace the reality of who we are. We are Africans. We are not blacks. Matter of fact, when I hear white folks say that word blacks, it grates my soul. We are not blacks. All of us are not black. We all colored. Black is what you look like, not who you are. John Henry Clark. African tells you who you are. And being an African is more than having your origin in Africa. Being an African means that though you call it Africa, you know the more, and the more is that it is a cable line. The whole world is a cable line because the African makes it a cable line. Why? Because a cable line is the garden of life. A cable line is the origin of all life, and being an African is what that means. It's a part of your essence. Being an African means that you have compassion, that you have sympathy, that you have empathy. Being an African means that there is not a bone in your body that seeks to murder anyone because of what they did to you, to enslave anyone because of our having been enslaved. I say to you that recognizing who I am an African, and I see those who enslave me still enslave themselves. And they are still enslaved by their ignorance, their arrogance, their greed. And those things that are material in this earth, that you are in servitude to are the very things that will destroy you. As Africans, we are not to dismantle humanity. We are to dismantle systems that seek to oppress humanity. Being an African says that we don't bring diseases, we heal diseases. Being an African means that even though the brown people and the European people voted against their self-interest in hopes of hurting us, we embrace them when they learn their lesson. But there are some fires that they have to come through first. If we snatch them out of the fire now, as soon as the smell of the burning leaves them, they'll forget where they were. But this is a stench that must stay in their nostrils as a reminder of what they have come through. The reason that the African has no one to help it is because the African doesn't need help. No one has the capabilities of helping the African. How is it that we are the original people? From us came everything and everyone. So how is it that you think that you have the wherewithal, the intellectual power, the spiritual acuity to help us, when you have been the source of the pain forever and a day? The source of the pain is not to destroy us. The source of the pain is to push us in a corner so we will truly embrace the divinity of our being. Being an African is extremely important and powerful. Look at the ingenuity of the African. I have a video I probably sent to you if I can find it again, that talks about this young lady reads a letter that is really a poem that her grandmama left in the garage in her things before she died, and it talks about what would it be like if there were no Black people. What would this world, in other words, what this world would look like if there were no African? What would America look like? There would be no ironing board. You couldn't iron your clothes. There would be no iron. You could not go to the store and buy frozen food because there would not be refrigeration. You would not be able to buy a car because there would not be a combustible engine. You would not be able to wear clothes because there would be no one there to pick the cotton and to weave it into threads to make clothing. If it were not for the African, there would be no airplane, there would be no train, no transportation. And it goes on to name so many different things. So the African's ingenuity is what has given all of these things that we call comfort. And if we are that if we have that kind of ingenuity, who is it can help us establish who we are? No one can do that except us, because no one else knows us. How can you tell me that you know what it is, what it feels like to be to have racism perpetuated against you? How can you tell me that you know what Jim Crow feels like and you never experienced it? The African knows the depth of suffering that humanity has experienced. Being an African is being God in this earth, is being divinity in this earth. And we must purge our mindset. We must purge the thoughts that we have been given about us being nothing or nobody. We must purge ourselves of this false spirituality that was given to us through Christianity, Islam, Judaism, etc. We must purge ourselves of that and embrace the reality of who we are. I am not an African American. I am an African. You are an African. And please know that you are more than what you see when you look in the mirror. It is not only the melanin that makes you an African, it is the action of the melanin that makes you an African. It is the results of melanin that makes you an African. Because melanin influences your emotions, your intellectual prowess, your ability to retain what you read, what you learn, your ability to not only retain it, but to add to it. Being an African is so powerful until it is in the best interests of those who are afraid of us to keep us ignorant of who we are. Being an African, look at you. You constructed a pyramid, the Pyramid of Giza. Every aspect of mathematics is involved in the construction of that pyramid, Giza. Why am I telling you this? This is not a pep talk. I'm not trying to hype you. I'm trying to get you to see you. See who you are, not with your eyes, but with your soul. Feel who you are. Don't be ashamed of your experiences. Embrace them. Because if you were not an African, you would not have survived them. Does that make sense to you guys?
Ashe.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's who we are. One other thing. Everything that's not spirituality is a religion. And religion is one of the strongest shackles known to man. When we free ourselves from the shackles of religion and embrace spirituality as it really is, it is at that point that we begin to understand with a depth the principles of Ma'at. As a matter of fact, no, not fact, that's a matter of truth. The Africans' construction is Ma'at. That is the reason we can't skin people alive. That is the reason that we cannot do barbaric things. Ma'at will not allow us to do that. And Ma'at is feminine. So the essence of femininity is what guides us. And now that we understand now that we have a greater understanding, I should say, of ancestry and of libations, coupled with what we're talking about right now, that should give us a sense of power that embraces not only all of humanity, but also embraces the Trumps of the world. Why do I say that? Because the energy that forges people like that has to be transformed into an energy, a mindset of the African. And again, I don't know any group of people who are connected to their ancestors the way Africans are. I don't know any. And
What
and
about Native Americans or Indigenous Americans?
they are us.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, they are us. I don't know any. And that is the reason that we are where we are. We are not barbarians. Mayotte says, no, you can't be that. No matter how hard you try, no matter how you remember how you were brutalized and you want vengeance, you cannot do that. That is not who you are. Our ancestors are one with us and we are one with them. And not knowing any other group of people, that means that when they die and the energy leaves their body, it's the African spirituality that transformed that spirit of chaos into one of order. And it cannot menace the earth anymore as it did. No. Our cosmic mother, the universe itself, the light of all lights, have been waiting for us to get it right. And getting it right doesn't mean we're going to vote the right way to get Kamala in office. No. Getting it right means knowing who you are and embracing it. This is not an exercise in academia. This is a spiritual session that helps us to understand who we are, just like the rite of passage in African villages are. The rite of passage in African villages always invite the ancestors through libations and dance and verbally, for the express purpose of passing the culture to the next generation, the essence, a picture or mirror of who they are. Regardless of what part of Africa you study, you're going to find that all Africans have in common one God. There is one creator. There is one light above all lights. And all Africans know that it is powerful and easier to traverse this earth, knowing that our ancestors are guiding us. We in the diaspora are the ones who have lost our way. We were brought to this country in chains. We've endured a lot, but it was not to destroy us. Otherwise, we would be gone. It was to bring humanity to a state of spirituality as opposed to greed. And that was done, as I stated earlier, so that we can traverse this earth as the gods that we were created to be. Does that make sense to you guys? Any questions or comments about that? Any of what I said?
Don't necessarily have a question or comment, but I think it feels, I think the other day I spoke of a void that I had or I felt. And I think that it feels that. Well, I know it does. It gives me something to see, something to hold on to. I needed that.
Thank you.
May I make a comment too, Pastor Jay? You just told us that we are love. When you love, you don't kill, destroy, steal. you don't do anything that's unright. But I got out of what you just said that we are love.
Thank you.
And when you told me about the light after the answer, the light, I forgot, the supreme light.
Yes.
When you mentioned that, I don't know what word you used. That touched me because I know that I was chosen for this appointed time. And just the idea of that energy trusted me to come here makes me feel honored tonight. When you said I just want to cry, it's like it touched something in me. I've been touched by certain people, but I'm telling you what I felt earlier when you said that. It's like it loves me. I'm here, you're here, and I trust you to do what you need to do at this appointed time. That's all I want to say. Thank you. I appreciate you.
I want to add something to that. Even though you're here to do this at this appointed time, what's being said by our ancestors, you can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. You need eyes that see what you cannot see. You need the energy that made horrible mistakes while they were in the body to correct the brokenness that they left behind so that we won't have to go through it. We can't do it alone. Love you. Hear what Evelyn said. She did not say that we are supposed to love. She said we are love. And if you are love, there is no room for hatred. Hatred passes through you, so that energy of hatred can be transposed into the energy of love and peace and harmony. And you can't do that if we see
And
ourselves,
Pastor, may I say one more thing? I'm sorry.
if we see ourselves separate from each other. Go ahead, babe.
I forgot about one of the sessions we had recently. We talked about ancestors and what has happened to all of us when we were younger through the parents or whatever. But after I got off the phone, I told my dad, I closed my eyes and I told my dad, I said, Dad, I love you. You did what you knew and I love you. And I felt him being free. My dad, I could just see he was just free. And I don't know if he was kept between the two worlds because I didn't say that I love him or really felt that I love him. But after I said that, my dad was released. I just felt a release, and he was smiling. And I was just thinking about that, and just letting go, and the things that we went through, forgiveness, all the things that we're talking about tonight. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Let me deal with that for a moment, if I may. I've used that term before several times. Being trapped between two worlds. The reason he was free is because you had his energy that was directed toward you trapped between worlds. Does that make sense? And I'll go on.
Yes.
You're holding on to the pain that he gave you. Once you were free from that pain, it was then that you experienced true forgiveness, and that energy, that bitter, painful energy that he left with you was transposed into the energy that's necessary for ancestors to fix what they broke. So when we talk about someone being trapped between two worlds, it's us who they're trapped in. When we forgive, there's a release. And all that time, and may I use what you just said, Evelyn, as an example?
Sure, yes, sir.
All that time, your daddy was with the ancestors. And when you opened yourself up and shared what you did and went back after the session and did what you did, your daddy was able to help you because you had refused it by virtue of holding the pain. And when that pain is released, now he can fix what he broke in this world. And you'll see it. And guess what, us? He's always been fixing what he broke. Not necessarily with you because of your mindset. But there are others who he hurt, who had let it go, who had forgiven him. And that means that he had opportunity to fix what he broke. They didn't know anything about pouring out libations. No, our ancestors, our creator takes us based upon what we know. The sincerity of our hearts. Now that we know better, we do better. Now that we know better, we do it differently than we've done it in the past. And I'm saying to you tonight, it's going to be libations and veneration of the ancestors, or you're going to struggle. The spiritual truth of what it is to be an African. I've done my best to share it with you as the ancestors infuse in me the energy of thought and speech. I feel what I feel because I'm experiencing the presence. I say what I say because I see it. It's birthed in me through the cosmic mother. The same thing is happening with you. Audrey spoke at the onset. That was ancestors speaking through her. Things that she never thought about. Ancestors are doing that. That's the guidance of the ancestors. Does that make sense, guys?
It does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? All I want to say to you then is this. If this has resonated with you, just embrace it by saying Ashe, if it resonates with you.
Ashe.
Ashe.
I say.
Okay.
Ashe.
Thank all of you. I carry with me every single day of my life your presence, your energy. I carry that with me because I have the privilege of covering you. And every place you go, my energy is with you and never shall leave you. I love you more than you could ever imagine. Have a good evening. Be who the African was created to be. Have a good evening, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Bye.